Hey guys, welcome to the video. I'm Amy and I post 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I post lots of first impressions, 3-day foundation wear test, makeup reviews, monthly favorites, things like that. If that sounds like your kind of content, please make sure to subscribe before you leave so that you don't miss out. In today's video, we are going to do the first round of my foundation roundup. So at the end of the year, I'm gonna do a giant foundation showdown where I'm gonna take all like 60 or 70 of the foundations I own. I'm gonna rank them. I'm gonna put them in sections so that you know, like if you have dry skin, this, if you have oily skin, this, if you like full coverage, medium coverage, sheer coverage, glowy, matte, etc. And it's gonna be like a giant situation. Probably gonna make a giant graph, but in order to break that down and make it a little bit easier for myself to try all the foundations and make my final opinions on them, I'm gonna do monthly foundation roundups, and today is gonna be our first roundup. That was a lot of explaining. That sounds like something you would be interested in. Make sure you like this video so I know to keep making this style of video. It's something I'm really passionate about, is foundation. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So this is my first one, so I'm not exactly sure how I'm laying it out. I've done a lot of photos, up close, swatches, wear test, everything like that I can shove into this video. Hopefully I can make it a short video and make it really, really impactful with as much information as possible. So yeah, if there's anything that you guys think that I'm missing, let me know so that I can try to implement that next month. Or if there's something that you don't like, whatever, make sure to comment that below so that we can make this the best, most informative, but also like the best, like you get the most information, the best information from me in these videos. So what I've done is I've kind of split my collection into sections of makeup so that I'm comparing all the same type of foundation at one time. So for January, I tested out sheer to medium radiant foundations. I put these into those sections based on what their claims are and not necessarily what I get out of the foundation. I know sometimes I've tried something that says it's glowy and it's matte on me. So I'm going by what the foundation claims. Sheer to medium radiant foundation. I'm gonna do an overview first. So I'm gonna go through each foundation that I tried, and I'm going to describe to you my thoughts and how I felt about it. While I'm doing that, I'm going to show you the swatches as well as the beginning and end of a wear test. So I wore each one of these for at least one full day where I was filming the before and the after so that you guys could see what they look like. And then you can interpret based on what I'm saying, what I mean. Hopefully this makes sense as we go on. First foundation we have here is the Milani Glow Hydrating Skin Tint. I did do a 3-day wear test on this if you would like to see like my full thoughts on it there. But this is after that. I continued to wear it. So let me give you the rundown on the foundation. There are only 4 shades of this foundation. It is a sheer foundation. Like, I've never tried anything so sheer in my entire life, honestly. So, you know, you do what's best for you in that regard. The price of this foundation is $11.99. I rated this to have a shade range of 3 out of 5 stars. Like, I gave myself like a rating system. So the 4 shades, there could definitely be more, but I'm giving this a 3 because I do like that the 4 shades are split up. Instead of there being 3 light shades and 1 medium shade, you have a fair, a light, a medium, and a dark instead of, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit more equitable in that way. But again, a 3 just because even though it's sheer, there could definitely be more. This is in the affordable category, and this one is sheer. This is the most sheer product that I used ever in my life, actually. And then this foundation was glowy. It did live up to that expectation. It was very glowy. It definitely looked more like skincare is how I would describe it. And this one to me wore for 10 plus hours. I loved how this one looked at the end, but it was because it didn't have any coverage, so you weren't losing coverage. You weren't seeing anything weird happen at the end of the day. So what I described to this as my overall thoughts are, it's a super sheer, but it's beautiful. It looks like no makeup. Really like skincare. It's how I wish my skin looked, and it is comfortable all day. It didn't get really oily feeling or really dry feeling or itchy or anything like that. I really enjoyed this foundation. And then the next foundation we have here is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow. Now this is an old school favorite of a lot of people, and I purchased it a while ago and I haven't used it in a long time. This one has 12 shades, but I rated this as a 3 as well because this one did not have a good depth to the range of shades. So even though they had 12 shades, I don't think they did anything more with those 12 shades than the Milani one did. This one is $12.99, which puts it on the affordable scale. It has a medium coverage. This one had a lot more coverage than the Milani one. As I'm talking, I'm going to obviously compare these to each other. And I wouldn't consider this one glowy. It is not nearly as glowy as the Milani one. It was more of a radiant. It was still like, I feel like dry skin people would love the effect on the skin, but it wasn't like glowy. Like the Milani one is so glowy that like oily skin people would like cry if their skin looked like that probably. I would give this one a 5 to 7 hours wear time. It definitely looked fine at the end of the day. Nothing looked like drastically terrible to where I would say like I need to wash this off right now. My thoughts on this one, my overall thoughts at the end of the day were, this is pretty, but up close it did end up gathering in a few places after about 5 hours. And I probably would end up powdering it throughout the day because this one did get glowier throughout the day. But I've been wearing this one, you know, like as like my new daily foundation. I'm really loving it. I have been into sheer coverage for the last month or so. And this one, like that coverage, and it's just like looks good. Really been loving that one recently. And then the third one that I tried was the NYX Born to Glow. Now there are 45 shades of this, and it does go across all kinds. You know, you got deep, dark, you got the fairest of fair. I'm usually like pretty much the fairest shade in most shade ranges, even high end. And for an affordable one, I was like a few up the range. You know, I was not near the end at all. And this one was $10. So I gave this one a 5 for the shade range because they really did knock it out of the park. And NYX does typically do that ever since they did that campaign with Alyssa Ashley for the Can't Stop, Won't Stop. Is that what it's called? Can't Stop foundation. I feel like they've really made an effort in their foundation ranges to say, hey, we are here to be inclusive. And I don't think that they are having an abundance of shades for no reason. Like their undertones are very different. The sections of the shades are very different and stuff like that. So I gave them 5 stars for that. And this is obviously affordable. The coverage was light. It is definitely not sheer. You can see that something is on your skin, but it doesn't do much for coverage. Like it didn't cover up my redness or anything like that. But this one is marketed as Born to Glow. So I really expected that this would have a high glow, but on my dry skin, I really thought this was more like a satin. It was pretty matte. On the camera, I don't know if you can really tell. Hopefully, on the footage that I got from the phone, you can tell that it really did dry down to my skin. My skin kind of soaked it up. And this one, I think, looked horrible in the beginning, pretty much. And it looked horrible after 3 hours. I really don't like this one. I put okay at first. Like, it's something that I could wear if I was going to Target, but I wouldn't be very happy about it. It's not glowy at all. It felt very dry. It started to break apart and gather only after a couple of hours. The chin, mouth, nose, between the brows, it ended up being a bit more radiant by the end of the day. But overall, it stayed pretty matte on my skin. So I think that this might be like a glowy foundation for oily skin, and it's not meant for dry skin because my dry skin really just soaked up any ounce of moisture that was in that foundation. I've seen so many people rave about that foundation. So, I mean, I tried it several times and I just could not get it to work for me. All right, now we are on to the Becca Skin Love foundation. This one is currently on sale. I believe they're getting rid of it, so it is only $11, even though it's technically high-end. It is fitting in with the affordable pricing. There are 24 shades of this. I did find that it didn't go as deep or as light as I would have hoped. I got the lightest shade, and it's not light enough for me. And like I said, I am not the palest person. Like, I am pretty pale, but there are definitely paler people than me. So I gave it a 4 for its shade range because it went like pretty far and pretty like split, but it just didn't have deep enough and it just didn't have light enough. So I feel like it was just a little bit squeezed there. This one had a medium coverage, and again, it looked more satin on my skin, and it broke up after about 5 hours. It clung to some of my dry patches. It is a bit dark, a bit yellow for me as well. It broke up especially around my mouth, and it got very, very greasy on my forehead and my nose. So I definitely think that this might be one that is, again, for oily people. But I have a hard time wanting to recommend things for oily people because I'm not oily anymore. And I did notice that when I did have more oily skin, I found that the more mattifying products I used, the more oily I would get because my face was trying to overcompensate. And that was just me personally. There are obviously like different types of and reasons of why you might be oily, but I believe the reason that I was oily is because my skin was dehydrated and overcompensating with the oil. So anytime I tried to mattify, I was just taking more moisture from my skin and therefore getting more oily. And I found that what really helped to balance my skin from being oily to being more normal was moisturizer. Like using thicker, creamier, better moisturizers really, really helped me. Just a side note, if you were looking for any kind of recommendations, the CeraVe Hydrating Moisturizer is my favorite. If you want something a little bit lighter, I would say the hydrating lotion, CeraVe still. But those are my thoughts on the Becca Skin Love. Next, I tried the Missha BB Cream, and I think it was very, very difficult to figure out how many shades they have, because even if you go to their website, they only have like 2 shades available. But if you go to Amazon, they have some shades available there. If you go to Yes Style, they have some shades available there. It's available in a variety of places, but there's not one place that has all the shades, if that makes sense. I have heard that they are reformulating, and I've heard whispers that they might expand their shade range. But what I found was I only found 7 different shades, and they are like, there's not even like tan shades. These are specifically for like pale Asian skin. But what's really great about that, if you are fair, is that they do have true neutral undertones in them. They have really, really great undertones for pale people. I know that shades need to be expanded for deeper skin tones. Obviously, it's been a problem for the last century or so. But I do also know that like when you're fair, it's a lot of times foundations you put on, they just automatically look orange on your skin, you know? So it's really nice to have an option here where you can get something that's gonna really feel at home on your skin. So I give this one a 2 because obviously the shade range is garbage, but I wanted to give it that extra point because for pale people, I really do think that this is like a godsend of colors. So the price range is wildly different depending on what shade, where you buy it. You can get it for like $10 to $20. So I will put wherever I could find it, I will put a few links down there, so that you can check it out yourself, if you're interested in it. The coverage on this is definitely a medium coverage, and it is more radiant. It is a like moisturizing, plumping look, really, really healthy looking on the skin. And I said that it lasted me about 5 to 7 hours. My overall thoughts were, it looks great, but it wears a little heavy around my mouth and around my acne. I would say this is pretty good around like fine lines because it does have that plumping effect, but you do have to be really, really careful, especially where you're moving a lot. You know, my mouth is moving a lot, you know, I might blow my nose or whatever, to pay attention to how they're wearing there. So I hope that I got a good enough like close up of that so you can see what I'm talking about. It's definitely not something that was, you know, horrendous that I would be that worried about, especially now because I'm wearing a mask and it's covering it up, so no one's gonna see that part of my face anyway. But the rest of my face, I feel like it looks really, really good. Definitely something that I would wear on a regular basis because the shade is so good. I love the plumping effect of it. You can use just a tiny, tiny bit to give yourself a nice everyday situation. I really like it. And then the next one that I tried was the Loreal Age Perfect Radiant Serum. I think that's what it's called, the full name. And there are 30 shades of this, and I felt like the shades were really good. Given the fact that this does have like a light coverage, I felt like, now I can't make the claim for people with deeper skin tone. Obviously, you're gonna have to check with them. They have to decide that. I can't decide that for them. But as far as like the fair range, it was sheer enough and had enough variety and undertones that I could find something that I feel like really feels at home on my skin and blends into my skin very well. So I give this one a 5 for the shade range because from what I can tell, it looks like it goes light enough, it looks like it might go deep enough, and it does have a pretty good variety, whereas instead of it being all light shades and a few dark shades, it's got fair, light, tan, medium, dark, deep sections that feel really balanced, in my opinion. And that one is $15.99, so I'm considering this affordable. And again, it does have light coverage. It definitely has more coverage than the Milani one. Definitely has more coverage than that, but it's not something that I would consider like a coverage. You know what I mean? It's more of an everyday situation. It's in this one I would consider glowy. It was very radiant on my skin, very glowy. The kind of glow where like you don't need a highlight. I marked this as 5 to 7 hours and said it is very glowy and it wears pretty good, but it does wear off a little bit around my nose and my mouth, and it gets very glowy throughout the day. So if you are an oilier person, you might want to set this. It got pretty glowy on me. I probably, if I were like at work during the day, I probably would have ended up powdering a little bit. And it did wipe off a little bit, probably because of that glow. I have not tried fully setting it because my skin just doesn't like that kind of situation, so it might stay a little bit better in those areas if you did powder. And then the last one that I tried in this section is the Bareminerals Complexion Rescue. And this one has 20 shades. I gave it a 4 because I felt like some of the undertones didn't feel right, didn't feel deep enough, it didn't feel light enough. It just didn't hit the mark for me. But it was 20 shades that seemed about pretty good. And for how light of a coverage this is, it is a sheer to light coverage. I felt like from my perspective, it looked like it could probably work for most people. So I give it a 4 stars on that. And this one is $33. So it's high end. And again, it is sheer to light coverage. The finish, I call this one natural. I would say this was like right down the middle. It looked pretty much like the same texture of my skin before I put on my glowy skincare stuff. And it only lasted about 3 hours on my face before I was like, this looks terrible. It looked super heavy, even though it was very, very sheer. It wore off super easily, and the color didn't work for me. It was very like orange for me, the color that I got, and I do believe they have 1 or 2 shades lighter. So I'm kind of curious about the color, if I could find a color that works for me better, but I'm not interested at all in ever trying this again. Because it was just like, if I'm gonna wear something sheer, I want it to look like my skin is beautiful and I'm no makeuping. I don't want to look like there are clumps of pigment all over my face and it looks terrible and clings to my dry patches and then wears off in places where you can tell it wore off even though it was sheer. So I just really didn't like this. This one was like heavy. I could feel it on my skin. It did not feel comfortable at all. I did not like this one. My number one favorite was the Milani Glow Hydrating Skin Tint. I do feel like this is something that I personally would wear every day. This is something you could make a no makeup look. What is it called? Boy beat. That kind of look you could totally do with this. You could just put this on and people would really genuinely think that you had just done your skincare and do nothing else at all to your face. I think it would look beautiful, but I also powdered the whole thing and get a little bit more coverage out of it and wear like a glam look with it. So I really, really love that one. The second one is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow. I was so surprised at how well I like this because when I originally bought it and I tried it, I was like, okay, yeah, cool. I got that one in my collection and I didn't think much else about it. But when I put this one on, I was like, wow, that's so beautiful. That looks so good, so smooth. The color is really good for me. The texture of it, I really, really love. The wear time was good enough for me. You know, 5 to 7 hours is, I'm not going to the office anymore. So 5 to 7 hours is great for me. And even when I was going to the office, like, I didn't expect to look fresh as daisies the entire day. You know, I expect a little bit of wear. So that was my number two. I really, really enjoyed that one. And then my third favorite would be the Missha BB Cream. I feel like this one is very similar to the effect that it gives to my skin as the L'Oreal Pro Glow, because they are very like smoothing and plumping and hydrating in the same way, and they do both have medium coverage. So I like that one. The downfall for me personally on the Missha BB Cream is not the color range, because that doesn't affect me personally. That's not the downfall for me personally. The downfall is the SPF like burns my eyes if I get it in my eyes, so I got to be a little bit more careful and particular with my placement in that one. So, you know, the Pro Glow one, I could just willy-nilly throw the face on, whereas the Missha one, I need to work a little bit harder and pay attention to what I'm doing. My personal number 4 was the Loreal Age Perfect. I think this is a beautiful everyday, but it's just not there for me. It wasn't, you know, a beautiful skincare finish like the Milani one, and it wasn't a medium coverage plumping like the L'Oreal one and the Missha one. It's just underneath those, like it just doesn't reach out and snag me, you know? But overall, I really like it. I think it's a good foundation. And then next, number 5 for me would be the Becca one. It's a really middle of the road, not my color, clung to a few dry patches, things like that. It was just like, I wouldn't be mad if I had to wear it, but I wouldn't want to wear it. Like these other foundations, I want to put on my skin because I love makeup. I love putting it on. I love foundation. I love it so much. But the Becca one, I was just like, meh, like take it or leave it. I'm really middle of the road on that one. And then number 6 is the NYX Born to Glow. I really genuinely hated every minute of wearing this. I did not like it on my skin from the beginning, from my first impressions, during these wear tests, trying it different ways. Nothing made it work. I don't know how people are making it work, because I don't feel like my dry skin is to blame for how terrible this looks on my skin. I can totally get down with some matte foundations. Like I'm wearing, well, you can't tell because I got highlighter and stuff on, but I'm wearing a pretty matte foundation right now that I think looks 100 times better than that glowy foundation with how terrible it looked. It looked splotchy and terrible and disgusting. I really, really don't like that one. I am definitely decluttering that one from my collection. I think I will keep it for the roundup, but at the end of the year, I'm gonna go ahead and let that one go. And then my number 7 is the Bareminerals one. Same thing. This was uncomfortable, ugly, terrible, broke apart, didn't wear well. The color was off. Nothing about this one worked for me. I really, really did not like this. I don't know how so many people like it. I know Allie Glines loves this and wears it all the time, but I absolutely not. Absolutely not for my skin. So same thing for this one. I'm going to mark this as a declutter, and I will declutter it after the final showdown. I do want to have all the shades available to me, so I can kind of do shade comparisons and things like that at the end of the year. I think I pretty much covered everything here. Again, let me know down below, is there something that you wish I would have expanded more on, or something that I didn't mention that you wish I had? Let me know down below. I really want to make this series a staple on my channel, and I want to make it as informative and useful as possible. So please let me know if there's anything else that you think would be useful to have in these videos, so that I can add it and maybe like organize it a little bit better the next time. So I feel like hopefully after I edit this, I will have made some adjustments along the way myself, and made myself some notes to what's working and what's not in the editing process. But yeah, your input means the world to me. So please comment below. Let me know what was your favorite part of this, what didn't you like about this, what it was missing, anything like that. It would be super duper helpful, and I would highly, highly, highly appreciate it. But on that note, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It helps me out so much, and I greatly, greatly appreciate it. And subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!